Hey, I'm Christopher Warnock of Renaissance Astrology, and today I want to talk about our new Great Wealth Talisman and also just house talismans in general, because they're kind of mysterious. So let's first talk about house talismans. When we make a talisman, basically we tend to think about planetary talismans. I mean, that's sort of the obvious thing people start with. I think that right now people have kind of assimilated that. They're comfortable with that. And the next thing we're sort of working on is fixed star talismans. And so people, again, can kind of relate to that. I mean, again, with the planets, you kind of understand that like Venus is love. That makes sense. Jupiter's wealth. You kind of look to that. Fixed stars, again, a little more mysterious, but again, you can kind of get a sense of them. Like Algol is a protection talisman. Spica is a wealth, a good fortune talisman. And then you start to get a little bit weird. Like for example, face or deccan talismans. It's like people have sort of heard of decans and faces, but that's getting even more out there. Mansions of the moon, that's a little more. Again, they've heard of maybe 28 mansions of the moon in the Western style. Each mansion has various powers when the moon is in that mansion. You can make a talisman. So again, those sort of make sense in a way. The less that people are familiar with the astrological factors, the more they're a little bit not sure how to deal with them. But basically, it's the idea that you have a single astrological factor and you're relying on that natural sort of planetary rulership or fixed star rulership. They have sort of set powers that go along with them. And that sort of makes sense to people. If you make a talisman of the planet, you're going to get the natural rulership, natural powers of that planet. House-based talismans, though, are definitely different, definitely kind of out there. And so what you're doing with a house-based talisman is you're going to have a chart that has multiple houses. And what you're looking at as for getting from that talisman would be the powers of those houses. So for example, you're almost always going to want to have the first house if you want to have positive stuff, which all I do is positive stuff. But the first house is for the user. So the first house and the ruler of the first house you want to have dignified. So you don't want to have malefics in the first house. You want to have the south node in the first house. And then you don't want to have the first ruler, which is again determined by the sign on the cusp of that house, afflicted. And really, if you're going to do these, you want to have the ruler of that house, in their exaltation or sign or multiple lesser dignities. And so you're going to have multiple houses involved. So for example, the Great Wealth Talisman, the first house and the first ruler, you're going to want to have dignified. The second house ruler, which is wealth, and the second house, and then the 10th house, which is success, fame, career, and so the house and the ruler of that. And that's a sort of a basic, that's what I would do like for a business election. And so those are the same houses that, again, we're using in the Great Wealth Talisman. I think of the house talismans as being sort of like a repertory theater. You've got these 7 actors, the 7 planets, and there's 12 roles that they can play, the 12 houses. And all of them can play all the roles. So it's a bonus if they're sort of typecast, like if you have like Clint Eastwood playing a cowboy. So for example, if you have, Venus in for a love talisman involved, that would be good. But it's not necessary. All 7 planets, if they're well dignified, can play all the roles, can rule the houses. So the other thing that you got to think about the house-based talismans is that you're, again, only focusing on certain houses. This is not like a natal chart, and this is the kind of what people automatically jump to. They're used to looking at natal charts. The entire chart is relevant for somebody, but that's because you're talking about their entire life, the good and bad parts of it. With a talisman, you're going to fix certain houses, you're going to pick them, you're going to maximize them, and you cannot eliminate all negative factors from the entire chart. It's just not possible. And so the reality of it is that you're going to have to tolerate negative factors in the chart, and you don't want them in your main houses. But again, if you've got for a love talisman, for example, it's the first house and the 7th house, which is relationships. If the 3rd house is afflicted, so be it. You're not really concerned about the 3rd house, which is brothers and sisters and short journeys, in a love talisman. And so anyone that comes on and says, "Oh, this is terrible for this is awful for everybody," it's like this is a matter of preference. Okay, you have to have some negative factors in the chart. You can't avoid them, and which negative factors you're going to tolerate, again, is a matter of preference. Like, do I like chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? That's all it is. There's no absolute rules with this. And also, people tend to go around freaking everybody out. Oh, there's a negative factor. It's like, yeah, right. There's always going to be a negative factor. It's always going to happen. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you get that with these house talismans, if you line them up properly, you get some amazing, amazing results and amazing elections. And so this is what's really tough about it. House talismans really are the most difficult type of astrological talisman to elect for. They're the height of astrological magic to the highest of high magic. And so if you look at Picatrix, that's got house-based talismans in it. Also Thabadib Kura, who's a Haranian Sabian, very famous Haranian Sabian mage and philosopher. He wrote a book called De Imaginibus, which means on images or on talismans. And again, that's a really important source for house-based talismans. All sorts of different things you can do with them. Wealth, love, getting various types of people to like you. For example, if you want, your boss to like you, do a talisman with the first house, which is you, and the 10th house, which is your boss. If your boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife, use the first and 7th. Friends, 1st and 11th. So, it's incredibly flexible in terms of, what you can do with the houses, because the houses cover everything. So you're able to do that. The thing is, it's hard to do these elections because in a planetary talisman, for example, you're probably looking at maybe 3 to 5 factors, and that's not easy to find. And if you line up 3 to 5 factors that are powerful for that planet, you're going to get a very powerful planetary talisman, very effective. But in a house-based talisman, there's many more factors. For example, this Great Wealth Talisman, Picatrix, lays out 15 different factors. And in fact, the current one we have, the Great Wealth Talisman, has 11 out of those 15 factors, which is absolutely amazing, very difficult. I know when my students get to the house-based talisman section of the course, which is later in the advanced portion of the course, they sometimes want to tear their hair out because it's so difficult to get everything lined up properly. So it is pretty incredible, to be able to do these talismans, to find the elections. And as I said, this is sort of the highest of high magic. Let's talk a little bit about the Great Wealth Talisman. So we have these in bronze. They are, as I said, it's basically wealth and success. So the focus of these talismans are, as I said, the first ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter is very well dignified by sign. Jupiter is also the natural ruler of wealth. So that's a great bonus. So first ruler and first house, so the user are in great shape. Jupiter also rules the 10th house, which is success, wealth, career, reputation. Again, excellent. The house is unafflicted. The ruler, Jupiter, is in very good condition. Second house is ruled by Venus. Venus is exalted and dignified by triplicity. So really, really dignified. Super +7. And then we have Venus applying to a partile within the same degree conjunction of Jupiter with very strong reception, because Venus is in Jupiter's sign and Jupiter is in the exaltation of Venus. Very, very powerful, very strong. In multiple factors, we've got, for example, the part of fortune, etc. You can take a look at the chart. Now, if you want to check this out, talisman, there's a link on the page. Check that out. If you're looking at this talisman, this video is recorded in August of 2022. If you're looking at too much after August, we may be out of these talismans. We only have a limited amount of them, and I expect with wealth talismans being our most popular talisman and this being such an excellent example, this is probably our most powerful house-based wealth talisman, that these are going to sell out pretty quickly. But definitely interesting as an example in any case. The other thing one of the things that's really nice about these talismans is that the design is beautiful too. We've got this beautiful angel, celestial spirit pouring out this, huge stream of gold coins. This image was done specifically for these Great Wealth Talismans by very talented esoteric artist Nigel Jackson. And also he did a color consecration image, which is also beautiful too, which is available only if you get the talisman. This really is one of our most popular talismans because of we've had these in the past, very popular. These sold out. We've been out of stock for a long time. Haven't been able to get an election to do these for a while. Not easy to get all the factors to line up with them. Certainly wealth talismans are our most popular talismans. And it's really great to have the boost then of Jupiter and Venus, the two benefics, as well as I said, Jupiter being the natural ruler of wealth. I just wanted to talk about these talismans, to mention those. The house-based talismans, like I said, What I typically do with them is in the invocation, I'll invoke the planetary rulers. But there's a certain amount of mystery about them. I think that the complexity, the difficulty of making them, and then the power that you get by combining multiple planets in these charts, and the difficulty of finding the elections all go together to make these very, very special talismans. So I wanted to highlight the fact that we've got these great well talismans again. Again, like I said, we've been out of stock for a long time. And that again, given the unique nature of this particular election, these are probably our most powerful wealth-based house talismans. Now again, like with any talisman, there's no way to predict what the results are going to be for any particular person. So you need to be ready basically for a wide range of possible effects, and potentially that you're not going to have any discernible effects at all. That happens from time to time. So you just got to be ready for that. But at the same time, we also have people that are very enthused about the talismans as well. I mean, most people are happy, some people are not. Again, that just comes with the territory when you're talking about magic. So great. Check out the Great Well talismans. You can also check out our other house-based talismans. If you're interested, if this kind of intrigues you, this is something that is dealt with in my full Astrological Magic Course, which again, there's a link for that. So again, check out the links for the Great Well talisman, see the course stuff and other thing in the page. And I just hope that you kind of get as excited about this as I am. I'm really psyched to have these again. When we first saw the election for this, I was like, oh, great. And then when we finally received the talismans, I was really happy to put these up. So again, check them out, and then check out all the other offerings of talismans and courses and everything at Renaissance Astrology.